Good evening. Welcome to week 4 of the Small Business MBA program. Obviously, my name is Tony, but you all know that. We will get straight underway because we don't want to keep people waiting. And for those people who are watching the recording, they can watch that at their leisure, obviously. So we are at week 4, so we're past the hump time, so we're into the home straight now as we get into things, which is great. And this week we are all about closing more sales, so let's get into it and see where we are at. All right, let's make sure that everything is working this end. It's appearing on the screen. Awesome. All right, so let's have a recap on last week. Again, if you haven't got your homework to me, what you were tasked to do this week was to identify your target market and then look at your product or your service and try and decide on, are you talking benefits or are you talking features? And then actually just make a list of what all those benefits of your particular product or service were and see how you're going in your messaging with that. The key points that we sort of took out of last week were that you need to have that clarity in your target market to be able to succeed. You need to know who they are, how big they are, how much noise are they making, and how does your level of noise compare against them within that space. So hopefully you've given a bit of thought to some of those actions. Also, as I said, be very clear on your benefits versus features when you're communicating your message out there, or the pros and cons of your particular product or service, because quite often what we do is just talk about the features. We don't talk about the benefits. And if you haven't done your homework yet, well, you are naughty. And I think there might be some homework outstanding from the previous week as well. So it's not too late to send stuff to me. As I said, I'm a resource for you. If you don't use me, well, it's certainly your loss. But it makes it easy for me. But I'm more than willing and keen to actually give some feedback and help out where I can. All right, so let's get into week 4, or else I'll start just ranting and raving about not getting homework to me, and I don't want to do that because we're going to keep it nice and positive. So where are we? We've talked about our goals and our plans. We've talked about our team. We've talked about how to identify and attract better clients. And now, once we've identified them, we can now sort of move into, well, how do we actually close those sales? So that's what today's about. So we're talking about the sales process, and then filling that funnel and looking at things like tracking your conversions, and another simple way to do some sales planning. So in line with the common theme that I sort of go through, it's all about keeping it sort of nice and practical and nice and simple for you to implement. So that's really the goal, putting it into layman's terms, but still covering off the basic fundamentals that we need to have. All right, so your sales process. The key objective, I guess, from today is, I really don't want you to have a leaking sales funnel. Okay, now what does that mean? Hopefully you've heard that term before, but solid sales process will eliminate all the potential leaks. So, if you look at that picture I just showed before, if you look at the bucket full of holes, obviously there's lots of water goes in the top, but not much is going to be left in at the bottom. A lot of businesses have that same sort of approach. They get lots of people either through the door, or lots of people giving their details and hitting the website and everything like that, but they're not turning into solid closed sales or closed business. Biggest reason for that is that most businesses just simply don't have any sort of structured process along that sales process or a sales pipeline. And that's what we want to make sure that you do have. But what is this sales process that I'm referring to? Because all you hear about in business is systems, processes, procedures, etc., etc. But what are we talking about? A sales process. The systems and processes that we've been covering off so far are the ones that are the critical back end processes that we need to have as like the skeleton of our business, so that actually all the body holds up. So look, in simple terms, a sales process is a systematic approach involving a series of steps that enables the sales force to close more deals, increase your margins, and make more sales through referrals. So look, it's a bit like that whole marketing definition. the key bits there that I've sort of found when I put together this definition was that it's, it's a systematic approach with a series of steps. So rather than just, the old wham bam thank you ma'am approach, there's actually a set amount of processes or steps that you should go through that you can educate your team on, so that you actually follow different, enabling tasks at each of those steps to make sure that you're maximizing your chance of success for the sale. So let's put it into a visual. Oops, I keep pressing that button once too often. All right, so if you look back to the funnel analogy that we talked about before, so here's a typical funnel, and here's a typical example of a very, I guess, one of the most common sales processes that are out there as far as the steps. Some of these may change slightly depending on the business, but the general approach is fairly sound. So at the very top, we have prospects, and then they then become leads. We then go into what we call approach, then qualify, propose, present, close, handle objection, and referral request. So that's your ideal and perfect world sales process. And I'll take you through that and see whether you've got it. So if you've got a sales process already in your business, fantastic. I'd just ask you just to sort of sit back and evaluate how you're going and what you're doing versus this process that I'm about to take you through. If you don't have one, well, these will help you to develop, well, okay, what's relevant for my business and what steps do I need to put in place? And then, we can talk about the stages or the actions that take place in each of those steps. So if you look at it, we've got prospects. So the best way to think about prospects are, anybody who may potentially consume or share or, use your product or service, or who could potentially influence. So really, it's really anybody. So I like to think of prospects as any business out there at the moment. For me, is a prospect. Okay, it's not me looking at a target or anything like that. Really any business could come to me and do this program, or go into business coaching without me sort of putting too much sort of time into the targeting of it. So what do they really want? Well, they may not even know who you are to start with, but they're not really concerned with what you sell. So there's no point just blasting messages out there. So this is where a lot of people just use that shotgun approach. Okay, they're just out there firing off marketing messages out into an untargeted space, which is why we talked about targeting last week. But they might come across your name on social media just via an ad by chance, or they might see your car drive around, or they might drive past your store or something like that. So they're not really looking for you, but potentially they could be a buyer from your business, when their buyers needs are there. So what can you do for them? You need to interrupt them somehow. So you need to sort of try and get them so that they think of you when their buying decision is at that right time, that they're looking for a particular product or service that you're selling. So they might get an interest in you if you might have things on your website or in emails or social media on some infographics on the industry, things. You might have some some non sort of salesy videos, so it should be non-sales videos, but demonstration type videos, things that are adding value. You might be they might start following your blog, or they might see a blog post from you somewhere. So you're really just trying to actually get to that initial sort of interrupt to sort of get that there. And so you might reach them through blogs, social media, partner sites, websites, networking, bump into people, as I said, signage, all those sorts of things. How do you know whether you've got any sort of prospects? Well, a little bit hard to measure unless you've got people coming to your website. So it might just be visits to your website, could potentially be a prospect. Okay, but I'd probably look at that even as a potential sort of like prospects and leads are very similar, and some people just track one. So that'll make a little bit of sense as I move into the sort of the lead side of things. But you might look at the traffic increase in some of your websites. You might find that people are sharing some of the posts you're doing. You might be looking at different social signals. So when we're looking at prospects, once you know sort of who your target market is, well, you can sort of start targeting that message to potential prospects who may be out there. Things like your website that we talked about, your social media. You might start targeting, if you're doing print ads, that might go in, the Canberra City News or Canberra Weekly or something, or Canberra Times or whatever it may be. You might actually start targeting that a little bit more at potential prospects out there. Get that message to try and make your brand be heard. You might try things like radio and targeting it. You know that your audience is a AM type audience. You might look at signage, branding, uniforms, etc., etc., etc. So there's many different ways that you can potentially start, other than shotgun and fire in the air and hope to hit something, to actually start getting a little bit more specific with your prospecting. And once someone hears about you, you've interrupted them, you want to try and get them as a lead and get them into that sales cycle of yours. So a lead, and this is probably more in a I guess a service sort of type of business, or a business especially where there's a strong online presence. It's a little bit different for a walk-in type business, because really a lead is probably someone who's walked in the door, but they've made that decision to walk in the door. You haven't done anything to capture any details, and you possibly won't capture their details. But in this context, I'm talking, okay, prospect is someone out there who, as I said, let's use this program. It's it could be any business owner that potentially could be a prospect. If I do some targeted marketing to those potential prospects and someone signs up as an expression of interest, I've got, with giving me their name and their email address, will I then become a lead? Okay, because they've given me some sort of personal information, and I might have given them some content back in exchange. And now I can start nurturing that relationship and try and convert them through the sales cycle. So in a retail environment, it's a little bit different, because your prospects and your leads are more probably the one and the same. But a lead, you're not going to get their personal details in most cases. So once you've got a lead, well, yeah, they generally want to get a bit more information. They may have a problem that needs to be solved, and some of the benefits that you're offering hopefully meet that need that they have. They usually want some sort of exchange for their information. So think about your own behaviors. You might download something, or you might get an offer for a free ebook, or a report, or option for a free webinar, or an event, or something like that, in return for giving your personal details online. So you reach them by getting more targeted with your emails, with your direct mails, by using your targeted online sort of search marketing and targeted Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads and all those sorts of things. And obviously the content, by landing pages and everything on your website. How do you measure that? Well, you start looking at your conversions. So how many hits have I had to my landing page or to my website, versus how many people have actually signed up. So how many people have actually given me their name and their email address. So you can start looking at a conversion percentage for those particular people. So that's your leads. So the aim of a lead, the aim for moving from a prospect to a lead, is to simply get that information via a value add return for their personal details. And it only has to be a first name and an email address, because once you've got that, that's when you can start building that relationship with them. So you're looking for things like a call to action. So if you've got a website, does your website have a strong call to action for them to give you their details, so that you can start building a database? Whether it's as I said before, a report, an offer, a discount. It could be discount coupons. It could be it could be free coffees. Could be free e-reports. Could be come in and get a free upgrade or something like that. And that could also be on your Facebook pages as well. So start looking at your blog followings. Okay, what's the benefit for them to sign up for the blog? Track your RSS feeds, and how many other sort of people are they subscribing to. Look at your whole LinkedIn approach. Do you have groups to build a following? For example, I run a Canberra Small Business Owners group, and the idea of that is to look at a whole positioning around building myself as the expert, and to get leads from that, you can use that as a targeted way to actually tell them about different programs and different things like that, and get them to sort of come into that group. So you might have an offer to the group. Facebook, you can have your videos, your deals, your ads, business pages, but you can actually put add-ons onto your business page to get some sort of lead capturing information. And again, in that retail space, let's use the cafe as an example. You may have something there where that they give you their first name and an email or a phone number in response for a free upgrade on a combo that you may have, or an upsize to a large coffee instead of a regular coffee. But you can do that and start building that whole database approach, so that you can get their information about it. Networking, you've got ways to get your leads and get their details. Workshops, you offer value, then you have information and try and get their details at the end. And you may have webinars as a lead generator as well, where you're running a free webinar with the intent to try and get people to take some action at the end so that they fall into that lead, so that you've got their details. Once you sign up people for a webinar, well, guess what? They usually sign up and you've got their name and you've got their email and everything as well, so they can go into your sales funnel. Okay, once we've got them, and the hardest parts, one of the hardest parts is actually to build that whole list of getting people into your funnel, into your database. And it's critical that businesses have a database so that they can communicate. Look at your Facebook likes and Facebook engagements. Really, that's, if you don't have a standard business that's sort of selling a service or selling products online or anything like that, your Facebook page works well as a lead generator for your retail business, because you can actually use that to offer things, offer products or services or discounts or deals or whatever it may be, to get engagement and extract those personal details, because you've got names but you don't have any contact details, and it's a little bit you're not going to sort of sit there and send out a personal message to every single person that's liking or following your page. And the way Facebook works now, I think it's only about 6 or 8% of your likers actually see the posts that you put on there anyway. But if you can get them to do some specific action to give you their details, their name and their email, you can put that into a database, and you can then send them out the deal of the week or the offer of the month or something. But you've got them into that funnel. So once they're a lead, we then sort of start nurturing that relationship, and we can sort of get to the stage. We want to try and then work it into approaching and qualifying. So if they've come to us and they've signed up, they've probably got a bit of interest in us and saying, well, hey, this person has he meets some of the criteria that I'm looking for to solve my problem. Okay, because remember, as a buyer, we have a problem and we were trying to find a solution. The problem might be, well, I need to start my business. The solution is, well, I need to get someone to help me do that. The problem might be, I'm hungry. Well, I need to go to somewhere that sells food, or if I'm thirsty, I need to get a drink. If I'm cold, well, I probably need to buy a jumper. So if we've got those people in there and we're potentially offering a solution based on the benefits that we've been talking about, well, that's when we can sort of start to get them into that approach and qualify. This is where we're qualifying them again. So they want us to help solve their pain. So we need to sort of work out, get them to understand the risk of not doing business with us, and how our expertise might sort of help fix their product that they have. So the idea of putting a qualification in there is to get rid of those tire kickers. A lot of people will sign up for things just to get a free report. They've got no intention of ever buying anything from you, and it doesn't matter what you send to them, they'll just they won't engage. So they're just your tire kickers. Or they'll come in and they say, oh, they've done all their research online. They just physically want to see the product in the store. So they'll come in and spend a salesperson's valuable time and make them explain this detail and that detail and everything else about it. But we need to have some way to qualify those people. So some of the ways you can qualify, it could be, are they the decision maker with the power to buy? So especially in a service environment, that's one thing that I sort of see a lot when I'm talking to people. In the early days, you'd go through and do this whole sort of pitch and trying to sell yourself, and at the end of the day, they go, yep, look, I'm really interested, and say, cool, when can we get started? And I say, well, I've got to go and talk to my partner because I can't make that decision by myself. Whereas if I had it qualified properly at the start and found out who the decision maker was, and they say, oh, look, both of us, well, you wouldn't do the meeting unless you had both of the people. Find out, when are they ready to buy? Are they a buy now person, or are they going to be buying later? Okay, well, when is it that you're looking to make this decision? When is it that you're looking to go on this holiday? So, if they're not going for a holiday for 6 months' time, well, more than likely they're just shopping around and looking for brochures. What do they already have? Is yours better? So if they've got something already that sort of partially fits that need that they have, and then how is yours better than that? Are they prepared to invest time or money, and how serious are they in solving the problem? So there's different ways you can target it based on your industry. I've given some of those examples sort of from my experience. And this is straight out of what I used as a qualifying when I'm doing a free coaching session with people. So it's all about the main qualifying things. It's all about money, authority, immediacy, and need. So I qualify them as to how serious they are. And the way this is used is, my process is, once I've got a lead and I've sort of made that approach for for a free coaching session, the idea of that is to explain how coaching might help them, and it's also to find out whether what their needs are and whether they would be a suitable client. So once I've found out all about them, I've got all the information I need to actually go and write my sales proposal if I need to. But that takes me 1 or 2 hours to write up. So I'm not going to waste time doing it if I see this person is just kicking tires and nowhere near ready. So I'll qualify them. So how serious are they? If they will turn around and say, "Oh, look, I don't really know, probably half and half." Well, we're going to start getting some little alarm bells. They're the sole decision maker. If I showed them a proposal that made sense to them, how soon will they get started? So that's looking at their sense of urgency. If it was to work, could they set 1 to 3 hours a week aside to work on their business? So do they have the time? Do they have the money? And that's sort of full-on coaching programs. It could cost them anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000, because part of the coaching that I'll do as well is suggest that they actually need to get other people to come and do different things as well, because they might need a bookkeeper, they might need to change their accountant, they might need to spend money on marketing. So do they have the money, or are they trying to look at it as a last-ditch effort to to save a broken business? Because coaching is not about saving a broken business; it's about investing in changing that whole thing. And then I sort of throw there and say, okay, well, if we did decide to work together, what qualities do they bring? So I sort of do a bit of a reverse, rather than me trying to justify myself. I get them to justify themselves to me as to why should I actually work with them. What do they bring to the table? Because it's a commitment from me, but I want success as well, and I want them to succeed. But if they're not serious, there's no point sort of going ahead. So a little bit hard in a like a food or some of the retail type models to actually have a qualifying question sort of process, because you're not going to sit there if someone comes in to order a cup of coffee. You're not going to grill them with questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, how serious are you about buying this cup of coffee? Are you really the decision maker that can afford to spend this $4.50 on this coffee? And if I was to make you one, or to show you my great coffee, well, how soon would you like to have it? You're not going to do that. This is a stage that's probably not really relevant in the fast food environment or in anything like that, because the person's pre-qualified once they've walked through that door and is lined up in the line. Okay, so it's not really about that. It's about you getting more people into the market, the business. So once you've done the qualifying and then there's still a part of it, that's when you would propose and present. So again, you know their needs, so you relate back to them. So in my case, I've got all the information for a proposal and everything from the discussion I've had with them previously. So I explain that all to them, tell them what they've told me, tell them what their pain points are, tell them how I will meet those needs, explain exactly what it is they get, and then you sort of put that all into a templated sort of proposal document and customize it for that particular person. Again, not relevant for the for some of the retail approaches. Probably the biggest equivalent in the retail space is where you get a quote. Someone actually wants a detailed quote on what they're actually getting. And look, you can have guarantees as well to help remove the risk. So if I have coaching, I'll have some sort of guarantee thrown in there about, well, if they put in the time and effort and everything that they're requested to do, if they don't see any results or change or value in what that I'm doing, well, I'll give that money. That I'll coach them for free until they're satisfied, I think is what the guarantee is. So again, guarantees need to meet that need. And then the close. So the close is obviously getting the sale. So if you don't ask for business, you won't get it. So you need to follow up and follow up again. Most people will defer a big decision until if they're spending money until they're prompted. And think about yourself when you're buying major items. You're the person who's an impulse buyer, or do you sort of get the price, how how much it is, the commitment, you sort of go back and and they keep, the salesperson will ring you and follow up, and you go, hey, yeah, look, you make all these excuses. Oh, look, I'll give me a call on Friday. I'll give me a call on Monday. Oh, look, my wife's not home at the moment, or, then you start ignoring the phone. As a salesperson, you really need to be a little bit more forward with your closing process. And look, it should be easy if the proposal's gone well, and if they've sat there in agreement and nodding and everything like that with the proposal. And that also comes in that whole qualification. And don't be afraid to ask for the close there and then. Again, if not as relevant in the retail space to a certain extent, in some retail cases. But if it's a service or something that you're selling, don't be afraid to ask that during that whole proposal stage, because it's important to get that close. If they're showing the signs of saying, yep, I really want to do this, when can we start? Well, that's when you pull out your piece of paper and say, oh, actually, look, let me just make an appointment for the first session. Let's start next week. How does that sound for you? And they go, cool. Okay, give us your credit card or your bank details or whatever it may be. Handling objections. Now, this can go in different spots. It can come after the sale, or it can come after the proposal, depending on your type of business. This is where people will go, oh, what about this and what about that? And that's where you might have some commonly asked questions as to, what are some of the buying objections they may have. But in this example, it's after they've actually said yes and signed on the dotted line, because that's when they'll the longer you keep them waiting after that process, the bigger chance of some sort of objection popping up. That's where they'll turn around and say, oh, look, actually, we've changed our mind, or we're going away, or, I can't get started this month. The idea is to get them started, get something to them, something tangible to them straight away, so that they're actually starting to see that value. So if you've got something automated, that's where you'd send out, like, okay, look, here's your pre-work, start working on this, start doing something else, because it eliminates that buyer's remorse. And this is more so for your big ticket items. If someone's going to spend, $10,000 or $20,000 on a service-based, solution, it's an important one to put in there. In the smaller sort of retail space, that might be where you can add some sort of value. You might sort of have just bought this, particular thing. Well, guess what? We're just going to give you a free upgrade, or a free, or a bonus voucher for next time you come back, or something like that. So, if you can immediately confirm, book, and get those next steps out straight away, automate sending some information to them if you can, if it's a service related, and just reinforce that, hey, look, George, you've really made an awesome decision, and start out by then wowing them as a customer for you. And the last bit, which we miss a lot, is referrals. Okay, so this is where we develop a process to ask for referrals with your clients. And you can do this in any business. It doesn't matter whether you are selling coffee, or whether you're selling clothes, or whether you're selling services. You can put a process in there, and even if you've got people in your restaurant, and you've got a full restaurant there, that's where the business owner or the staff or someone can be trained to go out there and say, g'day mate, how you going? I'm Tony, just checking to see whether everything's okay here. People aren't going to say no in most cases, especially if you know that the product is good. Look, I noticed you ordered the special we had today. What do you think of it? 'Cause I reckon it's a really cool meal. I reckon it's one of the best meals we've got here. Did you enjoy it? And I said, yeah, well, look, here's something, if you want to hand this out to a couple of your friends, you'll get such and such. Or, put some sort of process in there to actually make them referral partners. When you've got a service-based product you're selling, that's where, if people are getting value, that's where you might offer a referral process to them, where they may get some bonus product or service for doing so. Some people put in referral fees, or might set them up as an affiliate program. So there's different ways to do that, and there's different ways to add something into your business for that. So develop that structure in there for your particular business, and if you can do it, automate it. So this is that process as a typical sort of standard sales process. So you've got your prospects, who are pretty much anyone, and then once you get them interested in you, they become a lead. Then you can approach and qualify them. You propose, you close, you handle objections, and referral. So that's a classic. I guess that's your textbook sort of sales process. Now, it's not going to do every businesses, but the idea is to look at your business and see what you currently are doing, what's currently relevant for your business, and you might turn around and say, look, I don't think this is relevant, and tell me why. And that's where I'll say, well, I'll either agree with you, or I'll challenge you and say, well, have you thought about this? So that's sort of, again, how you can use me to help you in this particular process. Some, like the retail sort of, situations, might look something like this. Your prospect and lead really is, sort of combined as a one step sort of approach. So you might call it something else. Your approach and qualify is integrated. You propose, you handle objections, and referral. So that could be more of a retail, let's say a retail or Harvey Norman or something like that. Could be done in that way. The main thing is have a process and have steps in there, because it really starts becoming a numbers game for your business. The more people that go in the top, the more people you start retaining at the bottom. And the only way that you know how your sales process is going is by tracking it and measuring it. So let's just have a look and see sort of how you do it. So, you know, I guess I ask you, you know, if you have a sales process already, do you know what your conversion rates are? If you don't, you really, really should, because, you know, having that knowledge and having that information at your fingertips is such powerful information to allow you to help you work smarter and get you more targeted with everything you do. So what do you track? Look, ideally, you can track all the steps, but look, at a bare minimum, you know, think about things like from a prospect to a lead. So what percentage of people, you know, let's say you can use that website example, what percentage of people go to my website and then sign up? So there's a percentage based there. What percentage of those people who have signed up are then qualified? What percentage of those qualified people do I then sort of propose or sell to? And then from the proposals, how many do I close? And then from those close, how many give me a referral? So that's probably your basic numbers you'd track in a service, in like an online sort of, you know, a service, or, you know, like a coaching like me, or, you know, a marketer or something like that, you would track those numbers in your business. And look, to give you a sort of example, here's some of my numbers I sort of pulled out a couple of months ago. So from a qualified these are what I track. I don't track all of them, but from a qualified contact, so someone that I've met and, you know, I've qualified them as a, you know, someone who it's worth pursuing and seeing where the coaching is for them. If I get a qualified person, to get them to a free session, it's 80%. From a free session to a proposal, runs at 64%. From a proposal to a client, runs, so about, if I get a proposal to someone, about 4 out of every 10 people will agree to work. So you can see that's fairly strong. Now, if I go from an unqualified contact to a free session, that's 4.5. So compare the 4.5 with the 80%. Here, I've spent some time to actually qualify those people and, you know, actually see people that I know. You know, it's not just meeting every person who contacts me. I'll have a chat to them over the phone and qualify before I'll waste a couple of hours of my time and go and see them. But this is what I used to do when I first started. You know, anyone who contacted me, bang, I'd be straight out there and, you know, spend hours with them and, you know, try and convince them how awesome I was and everything like that. And, you know, 4 out of every 100 people I saw would eventually, you know, even get to that free session, and then I'd have to go through this process. So it worked out that it was, you know, 1 out of every, you know, 1% was an unqualified contact to a client, whereas it was 1 in 5 out of a qualified person. So I learned the hard way when I first started. You know, I was told you need to qualify, but did I do it? No, I didn't, because I was, you know, all excited about someone contacting me and wanting to see me, and I thought, wow, this could be the next big thing, the next big client that I'm going to get. But just didn't. All it did was just waste my time. So now, you know, I don't rush out for every single person that I've seen. You know, if I get a referral, if I get something like that, you know, they're sort of a bit more qualified than somebody who is just, you know, look, most of the queries I get sent online, you know, people take the time to fill out an online form, and you contact them back and you don't even hear from them, you know, which I think, well, why bother contacting anyone? So I'm glad I don't chase them and waste my time. But look at your particular, you know, particular numbers. So, you know, and that's just what I went through there. So, you know, 4 of 100 people get the free session. I need to get 89 prospects to get a client, you know, things like that. So it starts allowing you to say, okay, well, what do I need to do differently, or what parts of that process do I need to change that will have the biggest impact on the particular business? So you can start actually analyzing a lot more, you know, smarter with your business model if you track the conversions. So look, if you're not tracking some basics, and you can do it from, you can do it in a retail, or you know, again, use the cafe example. You can start, you know, your prospects may be, if you've done a particular advertising program where you're, let's say your Facebook, you might have 500 likes on Facebook. So they're potentially prospects for your business side, because, you know, people who like a local business, you know, they're either going to be your friends, or they're going to be people who, you know, may be within that area and think you're pretty cool and doing some good stuff. So, you know, let's say that means you've got a prospect of 500 for something. You may put a particular offer on there. You can start tracking, you know, the number of people that engage and download that coupon, or, you know, request the information or whatever. So they could be going to your leads, and then you can actually then say, well, look, out of the 500 people that were exposed to it, because I did a little bit of paid advertising, let's say you get 100 people respond and download the offer or print it out or do whatever it may be, and you can track that. You can see, you can put code on there to see what's actually happened, and then you might find that you've got 20 of those actually come into your business and redeem it. So you can track your prospect to a lead, and then your lead to a sale. So you can still put those informations in there. Look, it doesn't have to be high tech as to how you track it. If you've got anything done online, it's most of the tracking metrics are there, and you can actually use your analytics and do that, or you can do it manually. You can do it using an Excel spreadsheet, but a CRM or something like that you can use will actually give you a whole lot of, does all that sort of stuff for you if you're doing a more of a servicey based things, but they're probably not as relevant for the retail or the cafe situation. But tracking your information is critical. So that's your process. Now, based on that, really what you really need to be doing is working on activities on how to actually fill your funnel. So how do you get those targeted leads and get those prospects to become leads? And that's where we did this last week or the week before. This is where we looked at the whole your one-page marketing plan. So your whole idea there is, how do you get more new customers? Well, we're looking at what activities are we doing to drive that awareness. So, you can't just be doing one marketing activity. You can't just be out there saying, well, I've got a sign on my car and I'll drive around a lot, so, people should be able to contact me. Or I've got my website, or I'll wear a uniform. It's all about having all these different touch points, whether you're a physical location or whether you're a work from home sort of person like me. You need to have your different touch points. You've got to have your websites, your emails, your networking, and everything else on there to build that exposure and to build that awareness, and start getting your solution out there to the people who potentially need it. And think about an example of how well it works. Okay, and we're talking about filling the funnel. Let's look at Harvey Norman. Other graph was supposed to come up second. So let's look at what they do. So you'll see, they have half-yearly clearance sales. They've got road signs. They've got stories on the news and business shows. They've got apps, they've got gift cards, they've got more online catalogs and websites. They sponsor, leagues. They've got their Facebook presence. They've got catalogs. They've got the whole interest-free. They are doing all these different touch points out there for the whole sort of, potential prospects. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head because I've just had a mental blank, but, it's something like, it's like 11 or 18 or something sort of touch points of a brand takes us to, to actually get that brand before we'll sort of associate with it. And by that, I mean, seeing it in different aspects, not just seeing an ad 11 times. You need to see it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. But the way I use Harvey Norman is they do it very, very well. Whatever you think of Harvey Norman, they're always on the TV. They're always having a sale every weekend. They're doing all those sort of things. I don't get junk mail at home anymore because I got sick of all the crap that I used to get. But, every week there'd be something in the letterbox and I'd just sort of throw it out. And I think, well, I don't, nick off. I don't need anything. But what do? Your fridge breaks, or you need to buy a bed, or you need to do something, and you go, oh, I'll go down to Harvey Norman. And look, we did that exact same thing last week, because what they've done is they've proven subliminally to me that they've got a solution when I have a need, and that's the sort of brand that I'm thinking of. So, last weekend, the weekend before last, sorry, my wife said, oh, we need to get a new mattress for our bed. So I said, well, let's go to Harvey Norman. And then while we were there, going and buying a mattress, ended up buying a mattress, a new dressing table for our daughter, a bedside table for the daughter, and a bed set for my son. And we spent about $5,500, just in that trip down to buy a bed. And we're terrible shoppers because we don't go looking anywhere else because I hate the process. So we're perfect customers. Walk in and we see something we like and it's a reasonable price, we'll buy it. But normally Harvey Norman doesn't even cross my mind until I have a need. So, how do you get your brand in all those different touch points? So they're doing all these different things in all different avenues to all the potential prospects out there. They're capturing the people who get the coupons in the mail. They're capturing the people who are on social media. They're capturing the people, that are driven by interest free, or go for their big half yearly sales, or driving down the street, or watching the business shows, or whatever it may be. So they're an example that do it very, very well. So what is your Harvey Norman approach to your business, and how do you use those different touch points to fill your funnel, which gives you potentially more prospects and leads when they're ready to make that decision with you. So even if you're operating within a limited trade zone, what noise are you doing to actually get people to think of you, when they want a coffee, or when they want to go and have lunch, or when they have a work function, or when they're doing a meeting, they want to use your venue. That's what you need to think about. What different activities, and we did this a couple of weeks and I haven't seen any come back yet, but it's a critical page that you can sort of use as a one pager to actually say, well, what am I doing to find new customers? And if it's, oh, well, I got a free coffee card, well, awesome, that's rewarding loyalty and helping with frequency, but it's probably not doing anything to get new customers. So start thinking about some of the activities that you're doing there. And again, it's linked back to last week and the week before, talking about the benefits and rather than features. So once you've got your target market, which is critical, that's where you research, well, where are they hanging out? Where are all these potential prospects who fit the criteria for my target market? Where are they? And what mediums do I need to use to get out there? So should it be online, offline, print, radio, TV, whatever. And in the replay of the recording, there's a download sheet you can use. It's just got some simple lead generation tips as a template you can have a look at. Some may be relevant, some may not, but might be better than what you're currently doing if you're not doing anything. That's filling your funnel. The sales planning. Look, sales planning really is develop a process of just developing an outline of your sales process. So once you've developed that process, whether it's a 7-step process, or 5-step process, or 3-step process, as long as you've got some process to go from a prospect or a lead to a propose, or a sale, it might just go straight from a lead to a sale, or a prospect to a lead to a sale. Or then you'll think, well, I better have referral in there, and I better have potentially a handle objections. But once you do that, it's simply a case of just listing some different bullet point actions under each stage, just to sort of, I guess, help you with that whole process. And then you can start building some systems in place, as and it can get quite detailed, but you can start it off in a simple way. I suggest if you've got nothing, you start it simple. And this is just an example of what I sort of put together for, I think it was for this when I first started it. So I've got prospect, lead, qualify, and I'll go through the other ones till I get to them. But for prospecting, I've got things like I've got a website for, I've got books. Oh, sorry, this is my coaching one. Sorry, website. I've got my book that I've written. I've got networking, referrals. I've got local My Gun Garland websites. I've got friends, family. Do some paid ads, AdWords, Facebook, LinkedIn groups, profiles. Set up JV arrangements. I've got this program. I do search engine optimization. And I target that based on Sydney, Canberra, and Melbourne businesses. Once I've got their details, well, they'll go into a newsletter format, newsletter program where I send out a newsletter once a month, which I need to change that a little bit because it's probably not really working, because I'm getting great open rates, but I'm just putting information. I'm not trying to sell anything or do anything. But I do blog posts, and my writing coach will tell me not frequently enough. Got videos on YouTube. I did a whole program last year on the Small Interview Project where he was interviewing businesses in Canberra and posting them and giving exposure, and not trying to sell anything, but just building the profile. And again, different networking sort of formats. To qualify, well, I've got those questions that I showed before, pre and post questions, sort of phone qualifiers, and things like looking at the type of the business, the size of it, the turnover, its needs, and I guess where the business is currently at. Because although I've got a target market that I'll aim for, I've worked with people who have either had no business or starting a business, so I will try and find a solution if I think there's a genuine way I can help them, and that they're willing to to put some effort in to actually do it. And then proposing, well, post a session, I do it. I use an online tool called Quote Roller, which allows me to sort of automate that process and track and tell them when they've opened and all those sorts of things, and I can put time limits on the proposal. So look, I don't do my proposals in a pushy way. I'll send it out, and I might do sort of one or two follow-ups, but I don't sort of push, and that may be a detriment to myself. The closing is, looking for conditional close while I'm talking to them. I talk about pricing, do sort of confirmation of the proposals, set expiries, customize their content for them, explain terms and conditions and follow up, and then the referral. Look, if someone has a free session and then finds some value from it, and I know they're not going to become a client, I'll ask them whether they got value from it. If they say yes, I say, well, can you think of anyone else who may find the same sort of value if we had the same session? And ask them to refer that on, or you have referrals with clients as well. So that's what I mean by a simple process, and this template is in the recording as well. But just once you've got your process, just simply put a few, what are you going to do in each of those stages? You may have some formal referral programs or networking groups you go to, and BNI is one that I go to. But just it helps you plan a little bit more strategically in the action. So you're not just doing one thing in each step. There's multiple things, as you can see, and the list will keep growing. And that's probably only just sort of touching on the surface of some of the actions and the behaviours that get done. Some interesting statistics that I found recently in regards to sales and salespeople. 48% of salespeople never follow up with the prospect. And think about this yourself. And look, I get this one thing that does my head in when I'm trying to get someone to do something, especially a tradie or something like that. You'll contact them and you just won't hear anything. So do you do the same with your people? If someone asks you for something, do you only get back to one in every two? 25% of salespeople make a second contact and stop, so they get 2 no's and then they stop. 12 make a third and stop, and only 10% make more than 3 contacts. So a lot of people give up pretty early when it comes to sales. So that's from the salesperson side. Now the flip side to that, which is quite interesting, 2% of sales are made on the first contact, 3 on the second, 5 on the third, 10% of sales are made on the fourth contact, but 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. So that's where your contact, and contact can be physical, talk to, or contact is in the brand, touch points. Think back to the Harvey Norman example. So look at all the different ways that Harvey Norman gets their contact points out there. But it raises awareness, and it just raises I guess it helps show that there's a solution there based on the level of follow-up and the level of contact points that are made. So where most salespeople will give up early, most people who are buying need to sort of be reminded quite a few different times to actually make that decision. So I found that quite interesting because, it's, unless you're in the fortunate position where you do have people just walk in and buy something, which happens in retail and in food and different things like that, it's a different world out there in the sort of the selling side of things. And those statistics are, you see that all the time in the service sector. So that is sales. That is how we can get, hopefully close more sales. The biggest way to close more sales is by having a process. It's by knowing what your sales process is, tracking what's working, tracking what's not working, and then tweaking, the parts that need to be changed. If you're getting great conversions, well, why wouldn't you, spend more money on maybe some online advertising or something to drive? If you're converting 50% of prospects into a lead, and then they, 50% of those become a client, why wouldn't you spend more money driving more people into become a lead? If metrics like what's the average customer worth to you, what's their lifetime value. Let's say you've got a lifetime value of $1,000 for a customer, and that it's currently costing you $100 to get a customer, why wouldn't you spend unlimited amount of money? If I was going to say, okay, if I give you give me $100 and I'll get you a $1,000 customer, would you just keep pouring me $100 notes so that I can get you those customers? We sometimes don't think about the acquisition cost and don't think of the actual cost of our customers to our business, because by looking at those numbers, if you know that a customer is worth $500, $1,000, $10,000, $50,000 to you, sometimes it's worth actually spending a small percentage of money to get that customer. And quite often, we see marketing as an expense rather than as an investment. So if you went to the bank and said, well, for every $100 you give me, I'll give you $1,000 back. I'm sure you'd just load up as many $100 notes as you possibly could and go to that bank. So why wouldn't you do the same for your business? It's a different way to think about it. All right, I digress. Homework. Homework this week sort of builds on what you haven't done last week from your target market task. And it really comes down to what I've just spoken about, obviously, because I wouldn't have spoken about it otherwise. So what are the stages in your sales process? Okay, now, if you have one, still tell me what your steps are. If you don't have one, your task is to put one together and then send it to me so I can go through and sort of see what you currently have and challenge you as to whether I think you can add some other steps to it or not, and then you can challenge back and vice versa. So based on your target market identification previously, where do you think you could find those potential people? So where do you think your target market hangs out? And again, there's a download file there for some tactics that you could potentially use for some different areas, and that might actually give you some ideas as to where these people might be hanging out. And what are your conversions? If you don't know your conversions because you're not tracking them, well, think about what you may track. Which of those conversions would you track? Would you track prospects to leads? Would you track leads to proposals? Would you track leads to a sale? Would you track, what is it you'd actually track? So again, the last 2 weeks have been fairly light on the actual task sort of to do, but they're critical tasks to get done for your business. So if you haven't done them, I strongly encourage you to do so, because again, it's not a benefit to me, it's a benefit to your business. And the idea is to make a serious change in your business, and the idea is to spend some, make that commitment to spend some time working on your business each week. It's so easy to let it slip, but why would you let something slip that's a potential goldmine for you that you've done you've probably given up a good paying job to start a business so that you can have the lifestyle that you want. So give it a serious go as far as doing the tasks and spending that time working on your business. So sales process, where you can find your target market, and what are you or what can you start tracking as the conversions for each of those processes. That's your simple homework for the week. And that is it for this week. So next week we're going to be talking about margins, and this is the pricing. So we'll be looking at your pricing and everything like that. So what is your price? How do you price? What are some of the common pricing mistakes that people currently make? And just some ideas for what can you do if you have a sudden increase in competition? What type of things can you do to respond to competition for your business? All right. That is me done. Look forward to hearing from you throughout the week with your tasks or any questions that you may have relating to your tasks. Thank you very much for your time, no matter when you're listening to this, whether it's live or whether it's on a recording. And have an awesome week, and I'll talk to you all soon. See you later.